Welcome to Let's Speak Fleet, our video series where Wheels experts drive the conversation on the latest fleet trends, emerging technologies, and industry best practices. As one of North America's leading fleet management and mobility providers, we're dedicated to keeping your business moving, safer, smarter, and more efficient than ever. Together, let's go far.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Speak Fleet. My name is Carlos Oropeza with the Wheels Marketing Department, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to SHARON Etherington from Roche Diagnostics. SHARON, welcome to the episode.
Thank you so much for having me today.
It is my pleasure to talk to this Fleet Manager of the Year award winner. And recently, SHARON came off a panel called Fleet All-Stars, where they went through different strategies and initiatives that their companies are undertaking to be successful in fleet. And I'm going to ask you a few of those questions today, SHARON, for some of our audience. So for those of you that might not know you or might not know your company, can you tell the audience a little bit more about Roche Diagnostics and how your fleet supports the business?
Great. Thanks for, again, having me. Roche Diagnostics is a global corporation. We are based in just about every single country across the globe. We're in the healthcare industry. We support in vitro diagnostics. Globally, we have about 15,000 in our fleet. I support the U.S. diagnostics, and within the U.S., we have roughly 2,000 in fleet. And our fleet consists of primarily sales and then service organizations.
So within your fleet, what one or two initiatives have you undertaken that you are most proud of?
There are initiatives that we have started for this year. I'll go through just a couple of them. One of them is our global initiative. It's really the cascading down around emissions, reduction of emissions, which has really put into flight our electrification. We're well down our path. However, we're continuing to introduce electric vehicles into our fleet and be compliant by 2030. The second item is around safety. Safety is always on a yearly basis in our initiatives. How do we continue to drive safety, whether it's through training, whether it's through online learning, behind the wheel? We have various programs and we'll continue to refine that each and every year. And the third initiative we have is we did a survey with our drivers. And from that survey, we're really trying to listen to what's important to our drivers. And we want them to know we heard them. So we've created from that survey 5 initiatives that we're going to tackle this year.
Now with these new initiatives, or maybe think back to another initiative where you were successful, was there ever a point where you had naysayers or people saying it can't be done? And how did you overcome?
Absolutely, we've had naysayers. And I think for me personally, I heard a quote one time that naysayers truly look at change as a loss. And so once I heard that and it really resonated with me, for me, it came about how do I empathize more with those going through a change? How do I better communicate with empathy on those changes? And then how do I show them what the benefits are going to be short-term and long-term? And I think when I do that, I feel like I'm building more trust with our drivers, and then I can really kind of start influencing the naysayers away into really becoming a believer in our initiatives.
On the topic of advice, what would you say to a new fleet manager if you had the chance to sit in front of them, and what type of feedback or advice would you give them to be successful?
That is a wonderful question. And I'm going back and looking at what didn't I do in my career early on that I wish I would have, that I can maybe offer to somebody that's new in fleet. And the first and foremost is get out in front of your C-suite leaders early and upfront in your career. 1, I think that's important for them to understand what fleet is all about. And then 2, you're really creating that alliance and relationship with the C-suite. So that would be my first and foremost. That's extremely important. 2 would be, if you have a mentor, whether it's an informal mentor, whether it's a fleet manager mentor, whether it's just colleagues that you speak to, really have someone that you can bounce ideas off. You can be open, you can be raw, you can be honest about things that are happening in your organization. And it's always helpful to have that feedback.
That's great feedback. And how do you stay on top of fleet trends and on the happenings that are going around the industry?
There's significantly more, I believe, opportunities for us to get plugged into what's happening in the fleet world. Obviously, the NAFA and the AFLA has been phenomenal learning experience for me and the connections. Also with those connections you make at those meetings, I find ourselves maybe creating sub-meetings where we personally just meet on a quarterly basis and get on a conference call and talk through. But for me, it's really staying on top of those type of organizations.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for making time to speak to our audience.
Right, thank you. Appreciate it.
And on behalf of Wheels, we want to thank you for watching this episode of Let's Speak Fleet.